and welcome to the Reading Room. This is the playlist where I review what I read in the last month, and I do my best to keep it spoiler-free. As I say in all my reviews, these are solely about the books, not about the authors. So let's dive in and talk about the books that I read in July. So first up, we have Emily Henry's People We Meet on Vacation. And this was my second read by Emily Henry. I really liked Book Lovers, but I didn't really like this, and I hate to say it. I took this on vacation because it had vacation in the title, but I feel like the title is amiss here. It's not really about people that we meet on vacation. It's about vacationing with friends. I guess I was expecting a bit more, but let's go ahead and read back cover copy and see what the book said it was going to be about. Two best friends, 10 summer trips, one last chance to fall in love. Poppy and Alex, Alex and Poppy. They have nothing in common. She's a wild child, he wears khakis. She has insatiable wanderlust, he prefers to stay at home with a book. And somehow, ever since a fateful car share home from college many years ago, they are the very best of friends. For most of the year, they live far apart. She's in New York City, and he's in their small hometown. But every summer, for a decade, they have taken one glorious week of vacation together. Until 2 years ago, when they ruined everything. They haven't spoken since. Poppy has everything she should want, but she's stuck in a rut. When someone asks when she was last truly happy, she knows without a doubt that it was their ill-fated final trip with Alex. And so she decides to convince her best friend to take one more vacation together, lay everything on the table, make it all right. Miraculously, he agrees. Now she has a week to fix everything. If only she can get around the one big truth that has always stood quietly in the middle of their seemingly perfect relationship. What could possibly go wrong? So again, high hopes. I thought this was going to be a cute vacation read, but one of my biggest issues is I didn't really like Poppy, our main character. She was a bit over the top for my taste, and this is coming from someone who loves Becky Bloomwood from The Confessions of a Shopaholic. Becky is selfish and frivolous, but Poppy kind of takes being selfish to a whole new level. I wasn't sure if she was this go-getter who wants to get as much out of life as possible, and she's super confident and ready to take on any adventure, or if she's a sad schlub who can't act like an adult and literally needs someone to take care of her while she's sick. I know that I'm fiercely independent, and I guess I kind of expected Poppy to have more of that side to her, given what we're told about her and her lifestyle. But when push comes to shove, she can barely act like an adult and needs Alex at her side. Capable female protagonist, where art thou? I didn't really feel like I understood Poppy or her motivation. As someone who also runs a travel blog, I was really excited to read about Poppy's adventures and ability to travel as a full-time job. But she's all, travel was really all about Alex. Like, excuse me? Traveling with a friend, family, or partner is great. Don't get me wrong. But travel is also great on its own. Like, travel is a great way to grow as a person, learn about different cultures, try different foods, experience life in a completely different way. But no, not for Poppy. Her motivations and goals just felt kind of odd for this. It was like she was just acting like she wanted this free life filled with solo adventures and experiencing the world, but she also really didn't care. She didn't even seem to put in that much effort at work, like not enough to warrant her boss being so extremely supportive and patting Poppy on the back at every turn. Poppy didn't even seem to care about her own blog. I just felt like the conflict also of Poppy not wanting to be with Alex, it felt very contrived. She obviously knows she likes him, but her excuses not to be with him feel really flimsy. I also think we basically read the same scene of Poppy and Alex avoiding talking about their relationship for 12 years. They might as well have been actors in front of a green screen, so you could quickly swap out the setting. I also really hated the hint about what happened in Croatia, their fateful trip that took place 2 years ago, to make her and Alex not talk for forever, as it was dropped over and over and over again and teased out. And then the reveal of what happened is so stupid. Had it been in, like, one comment in passing, or Poppy would stop talking to her friends when they asked about what happened, fine. But the constant hint dropping but never actually saying anything of substance drove me up the wall. So I will leave a spoiler warning because this may be a spoiler. It's a toss-up. But I don't really care because I didn't like this. I knew the plot point of her not telling Alex that her company was funding this trip was going to cause some sort of freakout, and I was right. And I was mad that I was right. Seriously, Alex, who cares that she said her company was paying when it wasn't? You should have picked up on that clue when you had to stay in that garbage heap of a rental in the first place. It also kind of read to me like they're not good platonic friends. Like, I have guy friends. I do not think about them the way that Poppy thinks about Alex. I actually support their relationships instead of hating their partners. I do genuinely care about them. Men and women can be friends without there being a romantic or sexual undercurrent. And I wish we had seen more of that to understand their deep friendship that then turned into something more. I also felt like Alex becomes different characters throughout the book. Like, some scenes I really love him, and some I want to slap him. He becomes a doormat and lets Poppy walk all over him. Miscommunication, ahoy! Honestly, I wish the ending had gone another way, and I'm not going to get into it because that really would be a spoiler, but that ending kind of disappointed me. All in, I would probably give this 2.5, maybe 3 out of 5 stars if I'm being really generous. I didn't like it as much as Book Lovers, but it also wasn't the worst romance book I've read either. It just felt very middle of the road. I just wish the people we meet on vacation had been more prominent, or travel had had a different light shined on it, or played a much bigger role in it. Because again, even that ending that tries to kind of tie everything back up just doesn't fit with what we were told about Poppy as the story opens. All right. Next up was Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins, and I really liked this. I'm actually making a Books and Bubbly video about this because I thought this was really fun. I also took this on my recent vacation that was a cruise to the Greek islands, so I kind of felt the whole island vibe was going to be a really good fit for this one. But before we dive into the review, let's see what the book promised to be about by reading the back cover copy. One island. Beautiful, wild, and strange. Moreau Island is a desolate spot in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, with a mysterious history of shipwrecks, cannibalism, and even rumors of murder. It's the perfect destination for the most adventurous traveler to escape everything, except the truth. 6 visitors. 6 stunning 20-somethings are about to embark on a blissful, free-spirited journey filled with sun-drenched days and intoxicating nights. But as it becomes clear that the group is even more cut off from civilization than they initially thought, it starts to feel like the island itself is closing in. Countless secrets. When one person goes missing and another turns up dead, the remaining friends wonder what dark currents lie beneath the impenetrable paradise, and who will be swept under its secluded chaos. With its island gothic sensibility, sexy suspense, and spine-tingling reimagining of an Agatha Christie classic, Reckless Girls will wreck you. So I'm first off going to say the island gothic theme apparently was missed by me, but again, all in, really enjoyed this, and I honestly was a bit worried as after I bought it, I'd seen some negative reviews, but I ended up enjoying it. There were some instances where Lux, our main character, made some choices that I couldn't really understand, but I still felt like she was a decent protagonist. I also didn't fully understand some of the things that she did at the end of the book, but it wasn't enough to make me mad that I read it. It was not a Taylor Adams where I want to chuck this book out the window at the end. This was a pretty fast-paced, intriguing, and I actually really liked that the characters were distinct. I will say you need to suspend your disbelief for some of it and be ready to have the themes rammed down your throat, but I still enjoyed my time with this locked room style island thriller. I do think the book also could have gone a bit more in depth, especially on some of the backstories and motivations. It just felt very surface level throughout, and I wanted to know more about the characters, and why certain characters did the things they did. On a really positive note, the tension was kept up really well as I waited for things to start going wrong and understanding who was conning who or why this journey was happening. I think Hawkins is a really good writer, and she's very good at describing settings and people. I could see this island and our cast of characters quite clearly. All in, still a very entertaining read, definitely a good vacation read. Give this a solid 3.5 to 4 out of 5 stars. Again, I actually don't want to say too much about this as I just don't want a chance giving anything away. All right, next up is The Island of Lost Girls by Alex Marwood. I also took this one on the cruise as I love a theme and I wanted to keep the island theme going. But this is not a beach read. This is not a lighthearted island romp. This is very heavy and dark, and honestly, it could be upsetting for some readers. This book is a really good explanation of how wealth can buy power and protection, and the entitlement that comes along with it. It was also a pretty interesting look at how money can destroy something while trying to make a place better. But let's take a look at the premise and see what the book said it was going to be about. 1985. To 12-year-old Mercedes, La Castellana is home, an island with deep-rooted traditions untouched by the modern world. But this secluded paradise is upended with the arrival of multimillionaire Matthew Mead and his pampered young daughter, Tatiana. While the Meads lavishly spread unimaginable wealth around La Castellana, the price Mercedes and the rest of the islanders will pay is more than they could have ever imagined. 2016. Robin has been desperately searching for her 17-year-old daughter, Gemma, who's been missing for more than a year. Finding herself on La Castellana, an island playground for the international jet set, Robin quickly realizes she's out of her depth. No one is willing to help, and Robin fears she's running out of time to find her child. But someone has been watching, silently waiting for the moment to expose the dark truth of what really happens on the island of lost girls. So first up, the book is slow. It's so slow. I fell asleep 3 times trying to read this, and on the one hand, maybe I could blame all the drinks that I had on the cruise, but I also think it was just the slow pace of the book. I think the alternating timelines got a bit confusing at times. Like, obviously the stuff in the 80s was easy to keep straight, but then some of the current stuff I had to revisit to make sure that I was in the right timeline and following the right character. Some of the scenes in the flashbacks in the 80s were just, again, slow and painted a really depressing picture. Some of these scenes could have been skipped or used better, in my opinion. The ending was not my favorite. There's somewhat of a payoff, but we're denied seeing some of the characters get their just desserts, which would have left me more satisfied. Plus, the way some of the ending scene was written just left me confused as to what the hell was going on. It was all just kind of a blur, and I had to assume some things. I also felt like some things were alluded to, but never fully explained, so I still have a few questions about plot points and characters. Guess I'll never get an answer. I will say the descriptions are fantastic, and I could totally picture La Castellana and the changes as the wealthy overtake the island. I could see the boats, the opulent buildings, and Mercedes' family restaurant quite clearly. Marwood knows how to write description. She knows how to get us inside her characters' heads as well. I also think the slow reveal of the horrors done to the girls is really well done. We can guess what's going on, but the curtain is slowly peeled back and you can't help but look. Again, this is a heavy and somewhat depressing read. All in, I'd give this 3 stars, I guess. I'm honestly not sure how I feel. It was an interesting concept and very much driven by a certain sex trafficking scandal, and the setting was unique. But I still wish there had been more after the final battle, if you will. I wanted not exactly a happier ending, but a more satisfying one, and I didn't really feel that I got that. I would definitely check out Marwood's other work in the future, as she can write, but this was kind of a weird and slow read for me. All right. Next up, we have She Started It by Sean Gilbert. Ugh. Okay, so this was my pick for my June book of the month. Let's see what I thought I was getting. The party of a lifetime is nothing like what they expected. Annabelle, Esther, Tanya, and Chloe are best friends, or were as children. They drifted apart in adulthood, but shared secrets have kept them bonded, for better or worse, even as their childhood dreams haven't quite turned out as they'd hoped. Then one day, they receive a wholly unexpected invitation from another old friend. Poppy Greer has invited them all to her extravagant bachelorette party. 3 days of white sand, cocktails, and relaxation on a luxe private island in the Bahamas. None of them has spoken to Poppy in years, but Poppy's Instagram pics show that the girl they used to consider the weakest link in their group has definitely made good and made money. Curiosity gets the better of them. Besides, who can turn down a posh, all-expenses-paid vacation on a Caribbean island? The first-class flight and the island's accommodations are just as opulent as expected, even if the scenic island proves more remote than they'd anticipated. Quite remote, in fact, with no cell service and no other guests. The women quickly discover they've underestimated Poppy, and each other. As their darkest secrets are revealed, the tropical adventure morphs into a terrifying nightmare. Endlessly twisty, sharply observant, and deliciously catty, She Started It is sure to shock readers until the very end. You're right, I'm shocked that I wasted a credit on this book. This book should have been good, based on that interesting premise. But it requires a ton of suspension of disbelief. Like, I expected more of an explanation around the setup of the book and why the hell these 4 women wouldn't question an out-of-the-blue invitation from someone they haven't spoken to in years. The book makes it sound like Poppy was part of their friend group. She wasn't. Like, they pay some lip service to it, but give me something more realistic than they can't turn down a vacay. Like, these 4 women are supposed to be catty and cunning? They're idiots. I was also a bit confused about some of the things that these women did in the past. Like, there's a reveal, and I'm definitely going to have to do a spoilery review of this on a Wine Club episode, so I can talk all about it. But this reveal of something in Poppy's past that kind of made me go, huh? That's it? That's the big deal trademark? Like, it felt childish, which I get the girls were teens, but these girls seem like they could be a bit more extreme in some ways, and it wasn't realistic, I guess, is a good way to put it. I also felt like the book's pacing was quite slow. Like, things start going wrong really slowly, and then it just ramps up to 11 and we're at the 80% mark of the book. The book also uses diary entries to show things from the past, and I don't mind the use of diary entries in books, but they should be written like diary entries. These aren't diary entries. These are chapters that are written just like the rest of the book. If you're going to commit to the thing, do it the right way at least. The other chapters alternate between the 4 leading ladies' point of views, but they all read so similarly. Like, there were times I had to flip back to the start of a chapter to see whose point of view I was in, because they all blended. And every character is unlikable. I was waiting for these bitches to start dying. Even Poppy, you all suck. I know, as a former teen girl myself, that we can be catty, we can be mean, and we lash out due to our own insecurities. But these girls were comically horrendous. I really just left this book with a feeling of everyone is awful, but especially women, which, as a woman, what a fun feeling to be left with. The dialogue in this also just felt off and didn't read well, in my opinion. A good thing about the book is that it's a quick read. The setting was written well, and I wanted to vacation on this island, obviously not with this particular group, and the tension is kept up well as you wait for things to catch on fire. The book also ends on not 1, but 2 cliffhangers. Excuse me? You did not earn the right to do this, She Started It. If anything, you get 1, as it made the most sense for the story, but the other one kind of reads like it's hinting at a sequel, and yikes, no, that's not what we need. I did read a review on Goodreads by a woman named Ashley who noted that it didn't even feel like a thriller because it felt so much like trashy reality TV. And she is spot on with that. And I love me some trash TV. I didn't love this. This is a 2-star read at best. It could have been good, but it just didn't come together for me. I'd even go so far as to give it 1 extra star for this beautiful cover. But I'm feeling pretty petty, so I'm not going to. All right. Next up is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I apologize if I am not pronouncing your last name correctly. So I'd actually seen this popping up quite a bit on Bookstagram, and I was really looking forward to a story that would make me want to seize the day and live life to the fullest. And while the story is interesting and bittersweet and carries that message, I'm also not as wowed as I expected to be, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry if you have read this and you liked it. But let's see what the book promised to be about. On September 5th, a little after midnight, Deathcast calls Mateo Torres and Rufus Emeterio to deliver some bad news. They're going to die in less than 24 hours. Mateo and Rufus are total strangers, but for different reasons, they're both looking to make a new friend on their end day. The good news is there's an app for that. It's called Last Friend, and through it, Rufus and Mateo meet up for one final epic adventure to live a lifetime in a single day. The premise is so good. The idea of this world is so good. It raises so many questions and makes you think about your own life and your day-to-day choices. What would you do if you got a call saying you had 1 day left to live? It's a really interesting what-if question turned into a story. But I'm a sentimental and emotional person. I cannot watch Titanic or Moulin Rouge without shedding tears. But this was not sob-inducing, as I honestly expected to be crying at the end of this. I expected to be moved and sad, but also filled with hope. And while I think Silvera did do a good job of giving us readers hope and a reason to find meaning in your life, and living every day like it's your last, I was also kind of by the end. I think some of it has to do with the scenes dragging, the pace felt off, and it was feeling just a bit repetitive. Some of the things they decided to do on their last day was a bit, really? Like, some of it just felt so low stakes. And I do think that does lean into the point of some of the small day-to-day things that we do are what makes a life, and we need to appreciate that. But I expected them to be like dropping bills, though I do have to keep in mind that they are teenagers. I will also say that I was not aware that this was YA when I got it, and that's on me for not just reading like the inside flap because it spells it out for me. And I don't think YA is bad by any means, but it's not one of my favorite genres. I find it harder to connect with the characters as we're at different stages in our lives. Like, even one of the characters, Rufus, he's a part of this gang, the Pluto's gang, and I feel terrible saying it because it obviously meant a lot to Rufus and his friends, but at 17, he's really all, my Pluto boys! Like, maybe I just wasn't a good friend when I was a teenager. I did like Mateo and Rufus as characters, but I also never felt fully invested in them. Like, they're fine, but sometimes Mateo would annoy me, and I felt Rufus kind of got the shaft sometimes as he helped Mateo with his stuff, more than Mateo seemed to do for Rufus. I get that their friendship had to form fast as they literally have less than 20 hours when they meet, but I still felt a bit detached from them. I have seen some other reviews that say they hated the chapters that tell parts of the story from seemingly random people's point of view, but I didn't mind it, especially when you see how all of these randos are actually connected. All in, it was a beautiful story about two boys, I guess men, learning to embrace life and be their authentic selves when the cards are dealt. They get to experience joy, sorrow, elation, pain, friendship, found family, and love before they go. And you want them to have more time. Though I will say that ending is abrupt. Like, it makes sense given the title, but I almost thought like maybe my copy was missing some pages because it ends. I'm honestly sad that I didn't have the same reading experience that it seems so many others had with this book. It was good, it was wholesome, has a great concept, and has a great message. And again, it's a book that makes you think and evaluate your own life. I just wanted more from it. I do think, though, one of the positive notes is that Silvera can craft some poignant quotes. Like, maybe it's better to have gotten it right and been happy for one day instead of living a lifetime of wrongs. Or another, 12 hours ago, I received the phone call telling me I'm going to die today, and I'm more alive now than I was then. Another quote, I just don't think I should be the judge of who actually needs my help or not. Like they should do a dance or sing me a song to prove they're worthy. Asking for help when you need it should be enough. Another one, my last message would be to find your people and to treat each day like a lifetime. And then lastly, what am I going to do without you? This loaded question is the reason I didn't want anyone to know I was dying. There are questions I can't answer. I cannot tell you how you will survive without me. I cannot tell you how to mourn me. I cannot convince you to not feel guilty if you forget the anniversary of my death, or if you realize days or weeks or months have gone by without thinking about me. I just want you to live. Great, fantastic writing, fantastic message. I would give this a solid 3, maybe 3.5 if you like YA. This could be a really great read. I would definitely give Silvera's other work a try, though I do have to ask, one of the biggest gripes I had with this book is they refer to people who get the call from Deathcast as deckers. WTF, what is a decker? Like someone who's about to hit the deck? I never get any explanation for that slang term, and it really bugged me the entire time. All right. Lastly, we have Dark Corners by Megan Goldin. And this was actually my July book of the month pick, so yay me for actually reading it in the month I got it. But let's see what the book promised to be about first. Terrence Bailey is about to be released from prison for breaking and entering, though investigators have long suspected him in the murders of 6 women. As his release date approaches, Bailey gets a surprise visit from Madison Logan, a hot young influencer with a huge social media following. Hours later, Madison disappears, and police suspect she's been kidnapped, or worse. Is Madison's disappearance connected to her visit to Bailey? And why was she visiting him in the first place? When it hits a wall in the investigation, the FBI reluctantly asks for Rachel Crowell's help to find the missing influencer. Madison seems to exist only on social media. She has no family or friends, and other than in her posts, most people have never seen her. Who is she really? Using a fake Instagram account, Rachel goes undercover to BuzzCon, a popular influencer conference, where she discovers a world of fierce rivalry that may have turned lethal. When police find the body of a woman with a tattoo of a snake eating its tail, identical to the tattoo Rachel had seen on Bailey's hand, the FBI must consider a chilling possibility. Bailey has an accomplice on the outside, and a dangerous obsession with influencers, including Rachel Crowell herself. Suddenly, the target of a monster hiding in plain sight, Rachel is forced to confront the very real dangers that lurk in the dark corners of the internet. So, I did not know that this was book 2 of a series, but it also seems like I didn't miss out on much by going into this blind. I did see other reviews that said this version of Rachel, our main character, woke up on the wrong side of the bed for this book and was a bit more combative than she was in the first book. And that was definitely something I picked up on, not even reading the first one, but I just assumed that was her personality type. Like, she's kind of egotistical in the way that she thinks she doesn't have to sign an NDA when the FBI brings her in for questioning, and she just walks all over a crime scene. What? I wasn't sure if I actually even liked Rachel or cared for her that much, which is a shame, as it sounds like book 1 version of her is much more of a real human being. Where was that girl? I could not stand how arrogant she was when being questioned by the FBI, especially Agent Joe Martinez, and is basically all, I'm going to stay in Florida and figure out what's going on all by myself and destroy your crime scenes while I'm at it. Like, okay. And then every chance that she actually has to do some actual investigative work, she's swimming in the pool, running on the beach, basically telling the influencers she's talking to how stupid and narcissistic and awful they are. And they basically go, "Oh wow, you're right. Let me tell you everything you need to know so you can continue solving the case, even though you've been staring down your nose at me all night long and mocking my career. Yay, besties." I also had a really good laugh at Rachel just going undercover at this conference and them letting her use her old running Instagram account. Like, why is this conference bending over backwards for her when she's being a petulant little child and not even promoting it? Like, please. She's disdainful of all the freebies she gets, hates that she gets a nice room at the hotel, and is such a brat. Like, just show some gratitude for what the conference is giving you. I also then wonder, like, why she uses her real name at all when she made this switch from journalism to podcasting. She's all, "I don't want any perks or recognition." Then use a fake name, you ding-dong. Like, maybe it was explained in book 1 and I am missing that knowledge, but I felt her resistance to using her name or channel it to her advantage in this particular situation read really weird, as well as her complete lack of understanding how social media works. She is my age or close to it, is she not? And she's a businesswoman with her own brand, and she sits here being like, "I don't understand social media." You have an Instagram account that has 19,000 followers. And she's also in a very similar industry. She needs sponsorships and ad revenue, unless she just won the lottery and does the podcast for fun. But I don't think so. I think she just really thinks she's better than the people at the conference, and that says more about Rachel's character than it does about the influencers. I also have to point out one major annoyance with this book. So, one classic piece of writing advice is to watch how often you use characters' names, especially in scenes where there are just two people talking. We can keep track. Goldin apparently doesn't think so, because she is constantly name-dropping characters into the conversations, and it's a horrendous reading experience. Like, the conversations basically go, "I'm keeping you out of this, Rachel. Then you don't know me very well, Joe. I take it as a threat. That's why I'm keeping you out of this, Rachel. I don't work for you, Joe. I decide where I go and what I do. What does the symbol mean, Joe? It's a sign of death, Rachel." Like, no, nobody says that someone's name that much. Okay, so for some good things, I did think the beginning of the book was really strong. I was pulled into the story and the setup right away. I wanted to see how these disappearances tied together and who was working with who. I do think Goldin did a decent job with the twist and final reveal of what was really going on, and it felt real. I think the overall plot is a good one, even if it's a bit convoluted to make some of the clues that we do get fit together in the end, but it is still believable. The story is there. It needed some work before it was sent to the printer. All in, I'd give this 2.5 stars. It could have been great. It just didn't deliver. But this definitely needed a good edit and a protagonist that I didn't want to punch in the throat. There's definitely going to be a wine club episode dedicated to this trash fire. All right, so that wraps up what I read in July. If you read any of the same books as me this past month, I would love to hear your thoughts, or if you have any recommendations of what I need to read in August or even September, please share those ideas in the comments below. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the reading room. Again, definitely needed a good edit and a protagonist that I didn't...